Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Okay, ready to dive deep. Today's case is it's a real mystery and pretty disturbing too. The disappearance of Mona from this island, Malaku.
Melaku.
Yeah, Malaku.
Okay.
A tiny little island in the South Pacific,
Yeah.
very remote. We're talking like only 2,000 people. And this girl, Moana, just vanished. No trace.
Wow.
And get this, we've got all sorts of stuff to work with on this one. We got, let me see here, character backgrounds. Oh, and police interviews. There's forensic reports. Even, and this is pretty wild, we've even got excerpts from Moana's diary.
Well, that's a lot to unpack.
It is. It's a lot. So let's start with Molaku. It's like this picture-perfect island, right? Imagine lush green hills, crystal clear water, those beautiful beaches you always see in the travel magazine.
Sounds idyllic.
It does, right? But it wasn't always idyllic, and things got really complicated when this developer, Alistair, shows up.
A developer? What was he developing?
Oh, the classic.
Yeah.
A luxury resort. Big plans to transform the island, bring in tourists, the whole deal.
Sounds like that could cause some tension.
It did. You have this traditional island community. Their whole life is tied to the land, the sea, their ancestors. And then you've got this guy coming in talking about progress and profits.
Mm-hmm.
You could see where things might get a little, well, explosive.
Yeah, definitely. So where does Moana fit into all of this?
So Moana was this bright 15-year-old girl, and she was assisting an anthropologist named Izzy with research on Maori traditions. But she was also kind of fascinated by Alistair and his promises of a more modern life, like maybe a life off the island.
Oh, that's interesting. So she's caught between these two worlds, the old and the new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like she's torn, Part of her wants to honor her heritage, stay on Molaku, but another part of her is yearning for something different.
I can see how that would be really tough, especially for someone so young.
Right. Tough choices. And all of this is playing out against a backdrop of growing tension on the island. This development project has everyone on edge.
I bet.
Okay, so now picture this. It's the night of the annual ancestral feast. It's a huge deal for the community, a celebration of their history, with music and dancing. The whole island comes together. But underneath all the festivities, there's this current of unease.
Because of Alistair and the resort.
Exactly. People are whispering about him, his plans, his methods. It's like the island is this pressure cooker, and it's about to blow.
I can feel the tension building already.
So this is where things get really strange. Sometime after midnight, Moana leaves the feast. She's seen heading towards this secluded cove that she likes to visit.
A cove? Was it like her special place or something?
Yeah, the files say she went there a lot to think, to write in her diary. Like it was her escape from all the drama.
So she goes to this cove and then
Poof, vanishes.
just like that.
Just like that. Gone.
And nobody saw her after that.
Nobody.
Go-
At least nobody who's talking.
Wow. Okay, I'm hooked.
Just wait.
Yeah.
It gets even more interesting. The next morning, when Moana doesn't show up, the whole island goes crazy. Everyone starts searching.
Searching for.
For Moana, of course. They're looking everywhere, the beaches, the jungle, even going door to door asking if anyone's seen her. But nothing. It's like she just disappeared into thin air.
Chilling.
And then comes the first real clue. They find a piece of fabric that's snagged on a branch near the cove, and it's a match to the dress Moana was wearing at the feast.
Oh, wow. So we know she was definitely at the cove. But what happened after that? That's the big question.
That's what we're going to find out. But that's the thing about this case. Each answer just seems to lead to more questions.
I'm starting to see why you called it a deep dive.
It's a deep one, all right, and we're just getting started.
Okay, can't wait to see where this goes. Let's keep digging.
So that piece of fabric, it's like a starting point,
Mm.
but where do we go from there? What else did the investigators find?
Okay, well, remember how everyone was kind of looking at Alistair, the developer?
Yeah, he was definitely acting suspicious.
Right, and the police, they find hair strands near that cove where the fabric was, and guess what? The DNA. It matches both Alistair and Kai.
Wait a minute, both of them.
Both. So either they were both at the cove with Moana, or someone's trying to frame them. Maybe both of them.
This just keeps getting weirder and weirder.
Oh, it gets weirder. They also find footprints near the cove. And they're not Moana's.
Someone else was there.
Exactly. Someone was there. And they tried to be careful, tried to hide their tracks, but they left those footprints behind.
Okay, so we got DNA from two people, mysterious footprints, and a whole island full of secrets. What about those police interviews? Did anyone crack?
Well, Alistair, he stuck to his story, said he was at the feast all night.
But we know he was lying, right?
Mm.
That security footage puts him near the cove.
The footage is grainy, though, hard to say for sure. But his alibi, it starts to fall apart if you look at it closely. The details don't add up. And his behavior during the interview.
What about it?
He's way too defensive, agitated, like he's hiding something big.
Makes you wonder what he's so afraid of.
Right. Okay, now Kai, his interview, totally different vibe.
More emotional, I bet.
Yeah, a lot more emotional. He's heartbroken, still grieving his wife. But then they start asking him about those footprints.
How does he react?
He clams up, gets really defensive. It's like he knows something, but he's not talking. He kept bringing up this island legend, the keeper of secrets. So the island would protect itself from anyone who tried to harm it.
So maybe he was trying to protect the island from Alistair.
That's one theory. But the thing is, with Kai, his grief, it's so intense, it's hard to know what he might be capable of. Maybe he saw Alistair as a threat, not just to the island, but to Moana, too.
Okay, so we've got Alistair acting shady, maybe violent, and then we got Kai, driven by grief, maybe trying to protect Moana.
And don't forget about Vera, the mayor.
Oh, right. She was all about protecting the island, too. Protecting the island, that's what she kept saying.
Exactly. Very protective of Molaku and its traditions. And suspicious of outsiders, especially Alistair. She saw him as a threat to everything she held dear.
So we've got three possible suspects. Alistair, Kai, and Vera. Each with their own reasons for wanting to maybe hurt Moana, or at least keep her quiet. But then there's this whole other thing. Remember Moana's secret phone?
Oh, yeah?
Turns out she was talking to someone online. Someone who promised her a way off the island.
Wait, so she was planning to run away?
Maybe, or at least thinking about it. And she was talking to this guy, a fisherman from a nearby island. He kept a journal. And in that journal, there were all these details about Alistair.
Details? Like what?
Like how Alistair was trying to use Moana to get what he wanted, how he was getting frustrated because she wasn't cooperating.
So maybe Moana found out what Alistair was really up to and he had to silence her.
It's possible. But then there's Kai, his DNA at the scene. It's like we're following two different trails, and they might be connected, but we're not sure how.
It's a tangled web, that's for sure. And then you throw in that island legend, the keeper of secrets.
You think that's more than just a story?
Who knows? But the islanders believe it. And when you're dealing with a case like this, a disappearance on this remote island, sometimes the line between reality and legend starts to blur.
All right, so we've got forensic evidence, conflicting alibis, a mysterious online contact, and a possible supernatural element. Where do we go from here? This is getting intense.
This is where things get even crazier. All these pieces, they're about to come together in a way we never expected. Trust me, you won't believe what happens next. This whole case, it's about to explode.
Okay, so last we left off, we were talking about this fisherman, the one Moana was talking to online, and his journal.
Right, the journal. So the police, they track this fisherman down. They want to know everything he talked to Moana about, everything he knows about Alistair.
And this journal.
Yeah.
What was in it exactly?
A lot of stuff. This fisherman, he was kind of like, I don't know, a gossip, I guess you could say. He wrote down things he heard people talking about at the bars, the docks, island gossip.
Juicy stuff.
Oh, yeah. And there were a lot of entries about Alistair. People were talking. They'd seen him arguing with Moana, seen him getting angry. It was pretty clear that Alistair was trying to pressure her, use her to get the islanders on his side.
So this fisherman, he basically confirms that Alistair was not the nice guy he pretended to be.
Exactly. And the police, they start putting the pieces together. They see the DNA evidence, they read the journal entries, they look at that security footage again, and they start thinking, maybe Alistair did have something to do with Moana's disappearance. Maybe he panicked. Maybe he thought she was going to expose him.
So what are they thinking? He, hurt her? Killed her?
It's starting to look that way. But they still don't have a body. No proof. And then there's Kai. Remember, his DNA was at the cove, too.
Yeah, that whole thing was so strange. What was he doing there?
Well, the police think he was watching Alistair. They think Kai knew that Alistair was a bad guy, that he was dangerous. And remember Kai's wife?
Yeah, disappeared years ago, never found.
Right. So Kai, he's got this, protective instinct. He's seen what happens when people take advantage of the island, of the people. He's not going to let that happen again.
So he was trying to protect Moana from Alistair.
That's the theory. He was keeping an eye on things, making sure nothing happened to her.
Okay, so we've got Alistair, the greedy developer with a temper. We've got Kai, haunted by his past, trying to protect Moana. And then there's Vera, the mayor, all about protecting the island, whatever it takes. What a mess.
It is a mess, and it's all about to come to a head. The police, they're under a lot of pressure to solve this case. The islanders, they're scared, they're angry. So the police, they decide to hold a public meeting, try to calm everyone down, tell them what they know, maybe get some new leads.
What could go wrong, right? Public meeting.
So much goes wrong. The meeting, it starts out okay, but then Alistair, he shows up. He's trying to act all innocent, like he's got nothing to hide. But the islanders, they're not buying it. They're shouting at him, accusing him.
I bet that didn't go over well with Alistair.
Not at all. He gets defensive, starts yelling back. And then Kai, he steps up.
Oh boy, here we go.
Kai, he's got that journal. He knows what Alistair's been saying, what he's been doing, and he starts reading from it. Right there in front of everyone. All of Alistair's lies, all his threats, his manipulation, it's all out in the open.
Busted.
Totally busted. Alistair, he's trapped. He knows he's caught. And in that moment, the pressure, it just gets to him. He breaks down. He confesses.
He admits to hurting Moana.
He says he got into an argument with her at the cove, says he pushed her and she fell, hit her head, says it was an accident.
So not a premeditated murder, more like a crime of passion.
That's what he claims. But even with the confession, the case, it isn't really closed. They never find Moana's body.
So there's still that question mark hanging over everything. Did he really tell the whole truth?
Nobody knows for sure. But Alistair, he's convicted. He goes to prison. The resort project, it's abandoned. And Meliku, the island, it slowly starts to heal. But it's never the same. Moana's disappearance, it leaves the shadow, the sadness that just hangs over everything.
It's a reminder, isn't it, that even in the most beautiful places, there's darkness. And sometimes that darkness, it wins.
It does, but it's also a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, there's hope, there's resilience. The islanders, they came together, they fought for justice, they honored Moana's memory. And in the end, that's what matters.
So what do you think? Was it really an accident? Or was there something more to Moana's disappearance? Let us know what you think. And until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep diving deep.